Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Elizabeth, as you know. Welcome to our next installment of the Your Success is Our Success webinar series. As you can see, things are looking a little bit different today. Unfortunately, Kayla is unwell and can't be with us today. We hope her recovery is swift and she'll be back with us shortly. But I am very fortunate today to be joined by Anna Liddy, the co-founder of Logic and our Executive Director of Business Development. Welcome, Anna.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Great to be here and great to be connecting with people right across Australia and New Zealand. It's just it's fabulous, actually.
It is, isn't it? Okay, so before we get started today, we'll just want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today. And I would also like to pay our respects to elders past and present. I think I should confirm that everyone can see my screen. Okay. Right, so just a little bit more about our presenters today. So you all know me, I've been with Logic for a while and I've been helping Kayla out with these webinars, but I'd just like to give you a little bit of Anna's background. She is the founder of Logic, and throughout her career, she's built strong foundations in quality management, quality assurance, corporate governance, and risk management. Anna strives to support organisations to implement a sustainable governance framework that not only manages the ever-increasing demand on managing safety, quality and risk, but also supports organisations to become learning organisations. The reason why we're here today, again, it's Your Success is Our Success series. And we understand that organisations change a lot faster than the systems that they have in place. And the tech piece is always the second to be changed. The aim of the Your Success is Our Success webinar series is to give you all the tools that you need to bring your real life environment in line with the digital environment that we're in. The intention of the series is to address common questions and to give you actionable next steps to take to align your platform with your ever-changing business. The campaign's been designed to break down Logic into bite-sized chunks, and it's been scheduled to hopefully enable you to take action between each of our upcoming webinars. Also, we are reaching that halfway mark of our webinar series, if you want to join that the Q&A panel and tell us what you'd like to see on the campaign for next year, please put it in there and we'll take it into consideration. Before we begin, just a reminder that this session will be recorded and we'll send it to you in the email post this webinar. And if you do have any questions, please chat through us through that webinar panel. We don't have a third today, so we may not get to your questions at the time, but please send them through and we'll address them. We'll reach out to each of you individually. The focus and the outcomes of today is to reduce your risk exposure. So what we're going to focus on is the role that the Logic, risk and severity settings play in tracking your organisation's exposure to risk and adverse events. And what we want to achieve at the end of this is show you how to adjust those settings and how these settings help you to monitor that exposure. And we want to introduce you to the resources that we've developed to assist you with setting up and configuring those settings. So with no further ado, I will hand over to Anna, who's going to take us through that demonstration. Thanks, Anna.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It's actually, we're dealing with a very short time frame with a very complex area, and so I'm going to try and we've got resources at the end that we're going to provide to you, but and I am going to assume that you know some information already, but I am going to try and, where I think it's necessary, provide extra detail. So in terms of the settings that we're going to be talking about, I felt that the best way to describe that I thought it would be really important that you actually understood what settings we're talking about in situ. So I wanted to go to the risk register first off, look at what areas of the system that you can change from the back end, and then look at where they are in the back end that you can change them. Having said that, I'm actually going to change something else. I am going to go straight to the back end at this point for this one. That was for the next section. So system settings, you need to be in admin mode. And the first place I'm going to take you to is to the settings that are available through system settings in relation to risk. You can see that you've got one option here that you could enable or disable. It's the threshold alert email. So if you click on that, what it will do is when it reaches the 80% mark of the number of incidences that have occurred that you've tagged against a risk, it'll send you an alert email. If it's not activated, then it'll only alert you when it's actually reached the risk tolerance level. So that's going to be an option there for you. In terms of the register menus, you've got 3 options here that you can adjust. I'm going to start with the risk dimension. It's the highest order of the risk register. And what you're doing here is you're trying to categorize your risk, and we would suggest that you keep these as a minimum as possible. So you can see in this example that we're really sort of saying that all of the risk could be categorized into 4 areas: strategic, operational, service delivery. And then we've put safety in there because it's such a critical area. There's some legislation around it. So it's important to sort of say what risks on the risk register, for instance, have we got that relate to safety. So these are the 4 levels. And if we then look at the next level down, the risk categories, this is really where you could push out and have all of the categories that you want. So you could have, for instance, things like reputation and image, or legal or financial risk. So what you're doing here is that when you put a risk onto the risk register, first off, you're actually saying, well, which dimension does it sit in? And it might be any one of these. And then you're actually asked, well, what category should it be in? And you can see that in this instance, we really want to break down that categorization so that we can take 50 or 60 or 70 risks and say, what are all of our HR risks, for example? The third area that you've got to adjust is the action type. Now, what we're referring to here is that if in the event that you need to take mitigation actions, and you'll know, and I'll show you where this is, but you'll know that on the risk details form, there is the option to say, well, look, we need to do more to control this risk. One of the standard categorizations that's asked is, well, what type of action are you taking? Now, some of you all know these are all very common. They're very typical. You're trying to change the likelihood, or you're trying to change the consequences, for instance. If you're trying to change the likelihood, it's usually something like, let's provide staff with training so it doesn't occur. If we're trying to change the consequences, we're actually sort of saying, look, it's going to occur, but let's try and reduce the impact that it has on the organisation. But it's important when you're actually identifying your mitigation strategy is to check back with what is it that you're trying to do. Some really interesting ones like retain the risk by informed decision. Yeah, we'll carry this risk. That's what we're going to do. But we're not, and the sorts of action we're going to take is only really to sort of ensure that we fully understand what risk we're taking. So we might get legal advice, and that's about retaining the risk by informed decision, for instance. So these are the initial areas of the system that you can adjust on your system. And now for the next area, I do want to go to that area where I said I was going to go before. I really wanted to go in situ. So I really want to go over to the risk register itself. So coming over to the risk register and just showing you if the benefit of good categorization. So here, if I said, let's have it all, look at all health and safety risks, for example, then that's going to bring me, it's going to take 50 risks and put it into these categories. The one I wanted to look at by way of example is a sort of benign one, slips, trips and falls. And The system settings that I want to talk to you about now relate to this panel here, or what we call the component. Before I actually begin to look at what settings you've got at the back, I just want to take a moment to describe these three tabs here. The uncontrolled risk is really what it is. What is this risk inherently to your business if we had no controls in place? And you can see in this instance, in Shortland Street, it's been tagged as a high risk. But now management's done something about it. They've put things in place, maybe provided training. We've got procedures. We've got non-slip mats and floors and things. We've got a whole range of things that we've got in place. So to what extent have we controlled it? And you can see that we've moved from a rating going from high, and now we've pushed it down to a medium. But now, if we really think about where do we want to go with this risk, this is what the target risk rating is about. It's saying, well, where do we actually want to get to? And in this instance, we're saying a low. So, there's a difference between what we've currently got in place and what we hope to have in place. And so that's the benefit of the target risk rating. But now let's have a look at what, I think a lot of people have a lot of difficulties in understanding, but what would be the level of risk that you would apply. And remember, we're talking about, in this instance, we're talking about a safety risk, and we're talking about slips, trips, and falls. And if we have a look at, if we have a look at that uncontrolled rating, and now we actually look at, well, what would that look like? So we're talking about health and safety, remember, and we're talking about an uncontrolled risk that relates to slips, trips, and falls. If we click over onto the criteria, it says that really we could be, if we do nothing about it, we could be looking at short-term serious physical or psychological injury. That's if it was at that high level. But we think we've brought it down to a low. But let's check to make sure that we really have got that at the right level. Check against the criteria. And now we're saying, look, if we do have an event, it'll be a minor injury requiring medical attention. We really have knocked out all of the things that would cause those serious injuries. But where do we want to get to? So let's look at what a low level would look like. And you can see that we're trying to get down to where there would only be minor harm requiring first aid only. So you can see the benefit of the criteria, because it helps you to sort of say, well, is this really where we want to get to, or to understand the variances between these levels that are going across here. So let's look at the final one, which was extreme, and look at that. This would really be, if we had a workplace health and safety and it was related to slips, trips, and falls, we'd have a fatality or a permanent injury or disability. And so that's the benefit of the criteria. What you're able to do at the back end is actually set up all of that criteria. And just before I move on from that, I'll just look at that high again. And I just want to draw your attention to the fact that what we've actually sort of stepped through and said, well, this is what it would look like if it's a health and safety, or if this is what it would look like if it was service provision, or this is what it would look like if it was financial, and this is what it would look like as legal. You can continue to take these down and define what it would look like if it was high against other categories, for instance. We've just stepped through, and our resources that we'll provide to you will actually step you through those 4 areas. Now, what else you've got on the page here is, and again, I'm going to be showing you in a minute where you can put all of this in the back end, but what you've also got is the response protocol. So if we were really sitting at, remembering we started with a high and we reduced it to a medium, you've now got to, as an organisation, decide, well, should we take any action? And in this instance, we've decided we do want to reduce it down to here. But when you're on the control risk rating, and it will give you that rating there of medium, you can look across here to see, well, what has the organisation said that if we have a medium risk rating, what does this mean? And it's saying, for instance, that it needs to be managed at the line level. So if you're a practice manager and you've got a risk in your area, then it's your responsibility to be managing this. There needs to be a periodic review to ensure the risks are understood and mitigated. So bringing it up at staff meetings, training, that sort of thing. Any resources to treat risks are expected to be sourced from within the program. So that means that things to manage that risk because this is a workplace health and safety, this would be managed by the workplace health and safety team, I would expect. That's what it's really implying there. So again, you can specify what action is required. So now let's have a look at where all of these things are at the back end that you can change to fit with your organisation's requirements. So you need to be in admin mode, of course. And so we'll now come over and come to the risk settings. And you can see from here that you can actually, I didn't mention to you, but you can actually change the values in those cells. So extreme, medium, high, and low. If you want to call them other things, you can see that you've got the option there to actually make those changes. You can even make the changes to what's in the likelihood or the consequences labels as well. So you can see that you can just click that on there and they'll override the default ones. Now, the way that we're looking at here is there's that criterion, that little guide, and you can see that you can stretch that out. And so there's your opportunity to step through each of the categories, remembering you can add to those. And you've also got, for each criterion, you've also got that assessment. So here's the assessment here. So what you're really trying to do here is really trying to support inter-rater reliability. You're trying to get everyone to say, if the risk rating is this, it would look like this. These are really important. And here what we're trying to do is to say, well, if this is the rating we've got, then this is how we should manage that rating. So that's the two areas. So you've got you can change in system settings. And as I said, you can go down and select the risk register, and that'll provide you with the menu options that you can change. And then on the nav bar over on the left-hand side, you can see that you've also got the risk settings there.
Great, Anna, thanks for that. I'm just wondering whether you could show us how to change the severity settings as well that relate to the reporting register, because they can measure impact of an event that occurred as well.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. And this is another one where I think it's easier to describe first, to describe describe it in situ before I try to show you the settings at the back end. What we're talking about is actually I think it comes through on a couple of registers. I know it definitely comes through on the incident register. What we're talking about is that when we report an incident, there is the option, and just in case people aren't aware, that you can change this at the back end to be optional at the reporting stage, or you can make it optional at the manage stage as well. Or alternatively, you can make it mandatory to both. Or you can make it optional here and mandatory to here. And so I'll just show you in a little while how you can make those changes. But really good to think about, do we really want to make it mandatory for staff to set the SAC rating on an incident? If we're trying to keep the form as simple as possible, we're going to make it optional at this stage, which is what Shortland Street has got. It's got it set at optional. But let's say we've had that event and it's been an incident and it relates to workplace health and safety, and we're talking about I'll take this one, and hopefully I've got a slips and trips. I haven't. Okay, so I've just got an accident. So in that instance, what we're needing to do, if we want to, we need to put a risk severity rating on it. And it's here that you're going to have the options. And just to inform you now that you're going to have options about how the language that you use here. If you're in New South Wales, for instance, you could be putting what's called down a harm score. And I'll show you the resource that we've got for that. But let's have a look at some of these. I'm going to start with the lowest. And this is, we've set it up for New Zealand. And so this is the level 4. But you want to check, well, am I right? Is this really a level 4? That's what the guide's all about. And so we're saying here, was this a near miss, no injury, or no increased level of care or length of stay if we're a day hospital? Again, these are going to be all things that you can change at the back end, and you can also have a link to your own incident management policy, which might step through a whole range of things, but you've actually got more space here to do what you want to. Let's have a look at the other options. If it was a 3, and you use the guide, you can see that we're talking about a temporary or a major loss of function. And so you can see as you move up through the scale, the guide is really helping you to position the right one. So we're now talking about a permanent, major or temporary severe loss of function. And the highest level for New Zealand is a 1. And we're really talking about something that could possibly be fatal or permanent. So that's the guide. And again, you've got full at the back end, you can specify exactly what you want to put into that guide. And remember that you can change these this scale here. And in fact, you can actually change it to a 5-point scale if you want to. Now let's have a look at this. You'll be familiar with this now. This is really the response. So this is similar to the risk register in that you're able to put down what would be the response requirement. So let's take the lowest level. It's really just saying if you assessed this incident at a level 4, we're really talking about managing by routine procedures. So whatever you do normally is good enough, really. But if it's a 3, we're saying, you really need to watch this because this could actually escalate and you might need to be doing something about it. And it would be good actually if you actually spoke to someone, really when you're reporting it, if you could notify senior management. So again, this is what you can specify. This is really just example information only. In fact, maybe it's not even senior, maybe it should have been middle management there really. A 2, now we're saying that it's actually serious and must be addressed. And now we need to be identifying, I would suggest notifying senior management. And finally, the 1, that's quite significant. So this is serious. And you'll see that it's now we obviously have to respond immediately. And of course, you wouldn't even be anywhere near logic. You'd be actually addressing the incident. But nevertheless, notifying senior management who will notify the CEO. So that's just by way of example the text. So let's have a look at where you can adjust all of this information. So again, obviously needing to be in admin mode. And coming over here, you'll see that you have the severity settings. And from the severity settings, you've got this option here to go 1, 2, 3, 4, or you have an option to change that language. And again, you've got the option to put in the criteria. And you've also got the option to put in the assessment. So here's for 1 and 1. And as you go down, you can see that there's for number 3 and 4. So they're the areas. And again, if you want to put a link to a document, this is going to have to this will have to be a document on your document register, and you can just select from the document register. So you can just you can select anything that you want. Obviously, you want to select in this instance the incident management policy. So that's they're the areas that you can adjust in the system. I will just go over and show you where you can change those settings that I was talking about before. Elizabeth just reminded me before this session, it's in general settings, and this is where you can change your severity to your scale to a 5 level. So if you activate that, then you're going to have what we're talking about is, if I come out of here, again, easier if I'm showing you inside the system. We're talking about having 5 levels here. Is that right, Elizabeth? We're talking about...
No, in the incident when the SAC rating.
Oh, thanks. God, I knew there was something. I knew there was something wrong while I was doing that. Okay, so thank you. So we're actually talking over on the incident register. Thanks. That's great. We're talking about... Oh, that was a we're talking about this here. Thank you. And so you can extend that to 5. So you'll just need to go over into those general settings and set that as 5, and then you'll have the option. Then it'll actually provide you with the 5 that you can set up.
Now, Anna, just wondering whether you can share the resource so we can just explain where we get this information from, and that it's resources from regulatory agencies.
Yeah, yeah. So we thought that it would be useful to say to everybody, all of the examples that we provide to you are actually coming from a validated source. It's not things that we make up. So, for instance, if we're looking at the severity, and I've just got that one open, that's risk. It was this one. Elizabeth did this work late last year. So for those who if you want this resource, it's the easiest way to put it. If you want this resource, we can send it to you. So this is actually based on, this one here is coming out of New South Wales. It's coming from the New South Wales government. It would have been based on their health and safety legislation, and they've set up that harm score, and they're saying what the criteria would be in the assessment. So this is coming out of the legislation or out of the frameworks. And so for every jurisdiction, including New Zealand, we can provide you with the framework. It doesn't mean that you have to stay with it, but they're just the examples. So that's one of the resources that we can provide to you, and you can just select the one. Elizabeth also thought that it would be important to actually extend it. So do you want to just talk about that, Elizabeth, in terms of thinking, you were making the comment before about extending these?
As we engage with customers from different, what we call verticals, we continue to go back to industry resources and try and find regulated examples to include. So as these resources keep being extended, we'd always encourage you to come back to the knowledge base and just revisit it, so that you can always have access to the latest version of that resource as well. And we'll communicate that with you if we've made changes. And they'll be included on your Monday portals as well.
Great. Okay, and there's two other resources that we thought that would be useful to share with you that you might be interested in if you really want just a whole overview of the risk register. We've developed up something, so you can it'll take you through each of the steps in the process and give you diagrammatic images of the platform. So if you'd like that, we can provide that to you. And finally, we can also provide you with oh, great. Yep, the risk settings. So here are the we can provide you with, as I said, we've drafted up the examples, and we can provide you with what would be, at least a minimum what you could put into the criteria and the assessment for risk. So that's another example another resource that we've got, all free, all available, it's all designed to try and sort of take the complexity out of setting up the back end of the system and making it as simple as possible. And of course, these things will never absolutely fit with every organisation. You'll need to make changes, but it's easier if you're starting with something that's already, drafted up, and that you're just adjusting it to fit. So they're the resources that we can actually share with you.
Great. Thanks, Anna. I'll share my screen now, but I will also remind you, if anyone does have any questions, please pop it into the Q&A panel, and we'll look at that for you shortly. So just as a bit of a recap, why should we change our severity settings? They allow you to assess the risk using the consequence and likelihood matrix. They identify a risk level based on the impact, and that can come from various perspectives, including work health and safety, finance and reputation, and so forth. But it also supports the organisation to take the appropriate action based on the impact. And similarly, why should we change those severity settings? Firstly, it needs to reflect your jurisdiction and where you're from, so that you can successfully measure that impact. It could reflect the organisation's it should reflect the organisation's incident management principles and how you manage your adverse events. And these settings can also measure impact from a range of perspectives, again, just like the risk settings. So we've got some resources, like Anna said. We've shared those resources with you, and we've just again highlighted the risk setting resources as well as the severity settings based on each of the jurisdictions. And before we let you go, just more ways in which you can seek information from us. So anything in relation to features, new products, or training and learning, please contact us on customersuccess@logic.com.au. And if you have issues with or experience some difficulty with functionality or of your existing features, or you need some tech support, or you wanted to look at some of the latest releases, please contact support@logic.com.au. And just a reminder, the help icon at the top of your screen on the right-hand side will always provide you with the overlay panel that you can access all of our resources as well. Thanks very much, everyone, and that concludes our webinar today. Please leave us a comment or leave us some questions, and of course, if you think of anything you want to see in our next series, please leave those comments for us as well. Thanks very much. Thank you, Anna, for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and it's just great to see all those little hearts and thumbs up. It's good to share. We love it.
Yeah.
So come back. It's fantastic.
We enjoy having everyone here.
That's great. Oh, wow.
Have a great day, everyone. And
Fabulous.
we'll share all those resources. We've got everyone's notes, and we'll follow up with you individually. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone. See ya. Bye.
Ciao. Bye now. Are you still there, Elizabeth?